Bismillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah khatmun nabiyyin wa rahmatullahi alameen. Our today's topic is the ailing economy of Pakistan. There are so many indicators which tell that Pakistan's economy is not healthy one. Particularly in these days, it is really touching the bedrock as far as our financial or the economic management is concerned. But the point is, there are certain third world countries or the developing countries. They have managed their economic house properly and they made their country to emerge economically. India is in front of us. Vietnam is coming up. Singapore, once upon a time, it was a developing country, but it is one of the developed one now. Likewise, Malaysia is comparatively better than Pakistan. Indonesia is performing nice. And Taiwan or the South Korea, these are the good examples. And the China, till 1990, it was considered a developing world. But after 1990, it emerged so sharply upward that it has started challenging the superpower, the United States. And the people are visualizing now. It may be number one economy of the world, say within a couple of years. If things happen, somewhere else, like China or India, why these can't happen? What are those basic reasons that still blocking our way or creating so big obstacles that our country is not moving economically forward? Economic globalization is a phenomenon which made it possible for the developing world to add to their economic development. And for instance, China and India, they created that conducive environment for the investment that the multinational companies, generally we call the transnational corporations or the TNCs, these moved into those countries and they created a lot of jobs. When the economic activity is there, then the government is in a position to collect the revenue as well. When there is no job, no economic activity, there will be no income for the government. The major problem of the third world is the creating jobs for their young working force. And third world countries, they are unable to create jobs. Their economies never support them to create, to do business, because if they do any business, that goes in loss. And there is only one recipe or the model or the way left, that you attract those companies who have a lot of money, they are quite advanced in technology. If they open their factories in our country, they will create jobs. When the people will be working, they will be giving revenue to the government. And the companies, whatever they earn, some part of that earning will be going into the national exchequer of that country as well. This is the way, this is the model now. And this model really benefited China to emerge, India to emerge, and many countries of the world, even the Brazil, South Africa to some extent, and ASEAN nowadays. And most importantly, we now refer to Vietnam. Vietnam is really newly emerging country of the Southeast Asian nations. There are certain negative impacts of globalization, economic globalization. Should we go for the economic globalization? If we go for the economic globalization, we have to take into consideration कि ये एक imperialism है. वही जो दुनिया की multinational companies हैं, they are taking control of the developing world. They start influencing their legislature. They start financing during the election campaign. This happened in the United States even. So if they are, start financing or interfering or manipulating the electoral process of that country, it means they are getting control of that country. There is an apprehension. Certain people object. And number two, there is another bad impact that is on the environment. Environment degradation is on account of the industrialization, unscrupulous use of the machinery and the use of the fossil fuels that ultimately result in the excessive emission of the greenhouse gases, generally carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, or the nitrogen oxide. Environment doesn't mean only the air, that means the water and the solid waste as well. They have added to these pollutants into the water or the streams, and finally they enter into the sea and they affect the marine life. And if they are going down into the soil underground, and this underground water, which is toxic now on account of the seepage, the sewerage of the industries, which is toxic, they are carrying so many chemicals, and that gets leached down, and finally we pump it out for drinking purposes or the irrigation purpose. The things goes into the vegetables, fruits, and or if you drink we water, that becomes part of our body, and that result into so many unfortunate ailments, and the man is suffering from that. If we stick to, if we comply with the suggestion or the advice is given as a result of the Paris climate deal, then we can overcome these problems. उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि we have to put a control or curb on the emission of these toxic gases. A point ये है कि that deal is there, but still the largest emitters of the CO2, particularly China, United States, and India, they are reluctant. They are making use of their indigenously produced coal, and they are polluting the environment. Nobody can check them. When they are asked to address, in the New York conference, they refuse to address in those terms and justifying their defiance of the Paris Agreement. Point here, practically, the world is not in a position to deal with this situation with the iron hand. Therefore, all the conferences which have been conducted on the auspices of the United Nations, these are just of advisory nature. When the things are advisory nature, are not mandatory and not, verifiable, then the big countries, they use whatever is there in their national interest, or keeping in view the commercial expediencies. और ये दुनिया में रूल क्या चीज कर रही है? The commercial expediencies. क्योंकि if you switch over to the renewable sources, the other source of energy, that is expensive. If you make use of the expensive source of energy, then you are making your product expensive. This is known as the commercial expediency. To put your, product at the lower level so far as price is concerned, then you will be competitive in the international market. This is a problem. Now, in this practical world, or in this practical situation, what is that pragmatic approach which Pakistan should adopt now? Because India emerged economically, China emerged economically, Vietnam is emerging economically, and so many other ASEAN countries. Under this situation, should Pakistan, first of all, waiting for creating the renewable resources for which we don't have the economic resources, तो फिर वहां आता है pragmatism. Pragmatism ये होता है, जैसे दुनिया चल रही है, जो दुनिया अब तक एक्सेप्ट कर रही है, because this is the game of survival for us. तो लिहाजा finally हम कहेंगे कि in this world, the only way out for Pakistan is that to create job in the country and to activate the economic activity, or in other words, trigger the economic activity in the country, we have to create that conducive or feasible environment or the ease of doing business for the foreign companies, TNCs or the MNCs. When they come invest in Pakistan, you see our economy will move, so many jobs will be created, and the government revenue will also increase as a result of that. But what are the requirements of the foreign investors? Their feasibility report tells us they are conscious about 5 things. Number one, is the law and order situation satisfactory? Is the government is stable? The physical infrastructure, the road, railways, network, internet, and the electricity or all the utilities, that is available in the sufficient quantity, and rules and regulation governing foreign trade and investment are continuous, persistent, and they don't change with the change of the government. If there is sufficient raw material available, whether that country itself is a good market, or if there are markets in the vicinity of that country. These are, I mean, 5 things they are concerned about or they bothered about. When they study Pakistan, vis-a-vis other countries like India in our vicinity, they study, I mean, China, or they study Vietnam, they come to the conclusion that Pakistan is not an appropriate country to invest. Even Pakistani nationals, generally we call the diaspora, who are, I mean, there in so many other countries, in the Middle East or in United States, Canada, and they are rich enough, they can invest in Pakistan. When the conditions are not feasible, they don't like to invest, being this their own country. So therefore, the fault lies with we people, with the political elite, with that elite which governed the country or which is governing the country, because the responsibility lies with the authority always. Since they are in authority, they have to create that conducive environment. Therefore, finally, what will be our answer? Pakistan's economic uplift will not be possible unless we create that conducive environment. To how long we can survive by taking loans from the IMF or from other friendly countries. In a way, we are adding to our already economic burden. We have to pay a lot to the world. I mean, the debt taken, already taken, we are adding to that debt.